Hey folks, and welcome to another episode of 8 News Real Talk. I'm your host, Tannock, Blair, and with me as always is my co-host, Julia Broberg.
Hello.
Hey, Julia.
Hi, Tannock.
Today, we're going to be discussing the new Luca Guadagnino psychological thriller called After the Hunt, starring Julia Roberts and Io Edebiri,
Io Edebiri, yeah, you got it.
Andrew Garfield, and Michael Stuhlbarg.
Sure, yeah.
How about that?
How about that? It's Stuhlbarg, but that's fine. That's fine.
Damn it. This is his only film this year, which is surprising because last year he put out 2.
Year's not done yet. He might put out another one in December or something we don't know about. I wouldn't be surprised.
Between him and Yorgos Lanthimos, they were especially prolific last year. I think they both put out 2 movies. Or I guess Kinds of Kindness came out the year out. Anyway, I'm getting on a tangent. But yes, he is an incredibly prolific filmmaker. I think his big breakout film that garnered widestream appeal was the Call Me By Your Name film, put Timothée Chalamet on the map. And he's done all kinds of different genres since then. He did a horror film with the Suspiria remake. Last year, he made arguably the best film of the year with Challenges. And he followed it up with an adaptation of William S. Burroughs' Queer, which was sort of an adaptation of Naked Lunch, sort of including his a more biographic story of William S. Burroughs. But here we are in 2025, and he's released the film After the Hunt, which is... I don't even know how to begin to describe this. I don't want to give away too much. So maybe what we should just get into our ratings and pre-spoiler talk. What did you think of After the Hunt?
I think the mental state that you're going into trying to describe it is how I feel of trying to ascribe a rating as well. Because I enjoyed a lot of aspects of it. And then I think, because Luca always makes his movies look really good. Mm-hmm. And he knows how to cast people. I think each person is cast to their stereotype here in a way. I'll get more into that when we talk about spoilers. I don't know. When we start getting into the conversation of what it's trying to say, or if it has a lot to say, I don't know. I'm sitting between a 4 and a 3. Crazy, I know. Never heard that before. Because I'm just, and I'll admit I'm biased because I love Luca and I just enjoy his films and how he approaches things. I don't know. Maybe I'll go 3, and we'll see how I feel by the end after we've had our discussion.
Yeah.
How did you feel?
I am definitely a little cooler on it. I also don't know what I'm going to review it now. There were aspects of it that I really liked. I love the performances across the board. I think everyone, as you said, whether they're playing into type or not, they're definitely, in their wheelhouse, and they're performing at the highest level that they can within that wheelhouse. I have some stipulations or some hesitations about the story itself and what I think the movie was going for and what it was trying to achieve and what it actually ends up doing. And honestly, the biggest thing I think that is going to knock it down for me is Guadagnino's direction. I think it's intentionally understated, but there were a couple of things in there that I also found, just didn't work for me, which I guess I'll have to go into for spoiler talk. I'm going to say 3 stars. I'm going to go 3 stars as well. I'm not going to go all the way to 2, although part of me feels like maybe that's where I'll end up looking back on this film. So
see, I'm the opposite. I'm like, part of me could maybe go to a 4.
Yeah,
but
but we've met in the middle.
But we've met. But we've met in the middle.
Let's get into spoiler talk and really get into the nitty gritty of where we differ.
Tannock, what is After the Hunt about?
Okay,
that's what you always do to me. I can't do it.
Yeah, it's true. Shoot. After the Hunt is about a class of people at Yale University at some unspecific time, but it looks like the early 2010s or something, in which a student played by Io Idibri, I'm going to keep struggling with her last name.
No, I feel like you just got it.
Nice.
You slam dunked it, brother.
Yes. She makes an allegation against a professor at the school, sort of claiming that he tried to sexually assault her or successfully committed some sort of crime against her and an assault. And the entire film is about the fallout of that from the perspective of a third character played by Julia Roberts, who is sort of entangled in both these characters with close relationships to both of them, and how she navigates the fallout essentially of this this allegation.
Yeah, I think you again slam dunked it.
I felt like I was stumbling through it, but
no, you did good. And then we meet some side characters that are Julia Roberts' husband, played by Michael Stolberg, who is an analyst.
Yes,
and a very theatrical man.
Maybe one of the best parts of the movie is his 100%. Character. His
Look, we'll get into my love of Michael Stolberg. That's again, all I need out of a Luca movie. It looks good, which this did, and it has Michael Stolberg giving the performance of a career, which he did in Call Me by Your Name, and
he just don't miss.
He just don't miss.
I think I want to talk about what I think the movie is about, in addition to its plot, since we've outlined that now. When you're watching it, or especially in the first 2/3 of the movie, I interpreted this film as a bit of an issue movie or a message movie, where it's focusing on some sort of real world issue. In this case, sexual assault, maybe Me Too a little bit within the academic sphere, and it's going into a topic to expose the harsh truths of that topic, and sort of delve into the uncomfortable aspects of it, the sort of aspects that we usually try to avoid, or we want this issue to have a simple answer that we can all have comfort in that. Whereas this film is sort of playing with the complexities of the fact that, in situations like this, a crime has been alleged and different people are saying different things, and it does become a he said, she said sort of problem. But when we get to the end of the movie, I think this film sort of reveals itself to not really care all that much about this particular topic. And the topic is more just an excuse to go into the philosophies of these characters. Something that I didn't mention, I just said that this is all taking place in this sort of upper class academic sphere, but specifically all of these characters, these central characters, are philosophy professors, philosophy students, and a lot of the dialogue and background conversations that are happening, people describing these philosophies and whether or not they believe them, or how they choose to follow them, or how theoretical philosophy plays into real world.
Yeah. This movie's trying to talk about a lot. It's doing generational commentary. Mm-hmm. It's talking about virtue ethics. It's talking about sexual assault. It's talking about relationships between these characters. Yeah. And I do think sometimes it gets lost in that messaging or whatever it's trying to. But I appreciate the journey that it takes you on. Yeah. Part of my thing in this was it would have me and it would start to lose me, but how it got me again was what I really liked about it. Mm-hmm. Which maybe I'm not articulating that well, but
jumping a little ahead, I know we'll have to backtrack a little bit after this, but I wanted to get your thoughts on the ending specifically. What did you think of the ending? Did you like it? Did it feel like it?
It felt kind of like a past life situation. Not a past life situation. What am I talking about? The materialists.
Oh, yeah.
It felt like a materialist situation where it could have ended several times to me.
Yep.
Again, I think at the heart of this movie, it is about the relationship between Alma and Maggie, Iowa Debrie's character and Julia Roberts' character. I think, in a way, they want to be each other. Mm-hmm. It's much more obvious with Io. Obviously, she starts to
Yep.
dress like her and starts to.
Yeah.
I think Maggie wants the quiet resilience of Alma, and Alma wants the ability to confront what happened to her in her youth. And so I think they both want aspects of each other, and they're unable to meet in the middle. Yeah, I don't know. The ending was kind of.
I think that's a great way of describing it. I love that you brought up materialist because there's something else about this, the ending specifically, but also I guess just the whole way through the film that reminds me a lot of the materialists, and that these are kind of terrible people.
Oh yeah.
They're like incredibly selfish. I love. I shouldn't say I love. I feel like I had a greater understanding of what the whole film was about at the end there, where there is this passive aggressive sort of like back and forth counterplay that goes on between the characters of Julia Roberts and Ayo Edebiri's characters at the end of the film, where they've both essentially got what they want. They're both, Ayo's become a successful person in her own right, made grand career leaps and stuff, and gone from what is essentially a low-tier cheating student, as we find out in the film,
With rich parents.
to someone who's gone on to continue to be successful and is getting married and is happy. And likewise, Julia Roberts ends up coming out of this thing largely unscathed. Even though there's a point sort of towards the end of the film where it seems like she's going to get some sort of backlash or something for not being an appropriate ally, and the Rolling Stone or someone publishes something, an op-ed from Io that describes how she wasn't there for her, but she comes out totally fine at the end as well. And so the both of them are sort of dancing around, but also in some ways explicitly discussing about how the entire thing was used to their own selfish ends to achieve whatever they wanted to achieve.
Yeah.
And I think what that does is that it jumps us out of the reality of a real situation like an assault like this, and jumps us more into this sort of, I don't want to say entirely unrealistic, but
this dramatic, kind of hyperbolic.
Exactly. Sort of hyperbolic ending that is more so focused on, at the end of the day, these people who discuss philosophy and discuss ethics and moralizing and whatever, they only care about self-fulfillment and whatever they can get out of the circumstances that they're in.
Yes, and to speak to that, what they mentioned kind of early on in this movie, because again, they're doing the philosophy classes, and again, my version of hell is a college philosophy class.
Yeah.
And I think this does a good job of demonstrating why that is. There's a great line where she's having a discussion towards the end with the three students, and Arthur's like, I think, and she's like, don't think, Arthur.
Yeah.
Don't think. And I thought that was really funny.
The Lydia Tarr moment.
Yes.
That scene is literally like the one from Tarr.
Very much. I've seen a lot of comparisons made between,
Yeah.
she had her Lydia Tarr moment. They mentioned the panopticon, which I think is interesting, because I think what this movie does a good job of demonstrating, like you're talking about self-preservation, almost all the characters in this are going through pain and guilt in their own way. And what it's demonstrating is that in this day and age, it feels when you're going to somebody with a problem that you have, the importance is not placed on you, it's placed on how the person is reacting to it, because we have a mass audience now, because we have social media, and because this moment could be filmed or shared to a mass audience at any point. I think everybody in this day and age is more concerned about how, if they're reacting to it right, rather than the actual issue itself, which I think is what they do a good job of demonstrating here. As sad as it is, but I think that is just the truth. If you came to your friend and were like, blah, 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 this happened to me, a part of you is going to go, okay, how do we deal with this that will be acceptable in a mass media setting, which I think is even more pertinent to us because we work in news and we work in a time where, but the panopticon thing was interesting to me.
Yeah,
I had been thinking about that.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that is a really good observation. I think
Thank you.
the thing about this film that surprised me at the end, again, or just when I came out of the film, how I felt about it after the fact. I think the disappointment for me, or what I think doesn't work, and maybe it is the Tar aspect of it, where we have you've seen Tar, right?
Yeah.
Incredible film. Like, I
Yeah.
think that actually grapples with, cancel culture, sort of inappropriate power balances in the case of academics, or just even any workplace sort of environment. And it deals with that as an issue movie that is focusing on the issue through this character and being earnest the whole way through. At no point does it go into the hyperbole sort of vibe or tone that we were discussing with this film. Something that this film does, and it's right from the very opening. I don't know if you noticed with the credits. The credits are done in the classic Woody Allen style, the way that Woody Allen's films always have the exact same font over a black background. That's how the credits play with this film. And so immediately, for me, it's putting itself in conversation with those types of films, which is sort of nebbish pseudo-intellectuals, whether they're in academics or not. But usually his films are like a comedy of manners thing. And not putting aside the metatextual aspect of Woody Allen's own allegations, like sort of being a part of this whole soup of different ideas that the film is bringing. But I think what the film is going for is that performance that you're talking about with Panopticon and stuff being an aspect of comedy of manners sorts of things. I think this film would have been brilliant if it had just brought something like maybe a bit of black comedy to it. Like if this film had been Succession, like the exact same film, exact same like characters and the way things play out, but just with a type of dialogue or something that gives it a bit of life, as opposed to, waxing about philosophical ideas in long form ways. I think there was an interview by Guadagnino at either the premiere or another showing of the film, where he was discussing his career and how not only is he chasing after wanting to do different genres with each concurrent film that he does, but he tries to find a special effect, I think is what he called it. In the case of, like Challenges, it's the sports scene, the tennis scenes. They are a special effect that communicates, ideas within the characters or they're a metaphor for what's happening in the film. In the case of Queer, he got to use all kinds of surreal imagery and things. In this case, he said the special effect for After the Hunt was the philosophical ideas and discussions. But they're not very cinematic. You can't like put 5 minutes or like a few minutes worth of a philosophy lecture into.
If it's Michael Stuhlbarg, you can. For me, if it's Michael Stuhlbarg, yes, you can. But it's not always up.
I don't think it's like quite as effective as he like maybe thought it would be when he was, formulating his plan for this film.
I completely agree with what you're saying, and you get tastes of what your qualms are. Like you see a kind of tennis match, or what I interpreted as a tennis match at the very beginning when it's when it's Maggie versus Hank, and they're like going back and forth, and you see the eyes of like the other like students going. You kind of see like a little tennis match going, and I see that. Also, one of my favorite bits, speaking of the black comedy thing, where you wish, because I do think Luca is self-aware. Like I think Luca is aware that he's being dramatic and he's bringing us through these like long-winded conversations about philosophy. There's a moment where Maggie and Alma are sitting on a bench outside of some speaker, Hugo, whatever his name was. And Alma's like, yeah, Hank's in there if you don't want to. And so they're sitting out on the bench, like talking about it. And another professor comes up and is like, do you guys need help? And they both go, oh, you should get in there. Like if they would just invite, like I feel like that professor's like us being like, look, if you guys would just like, poke fun at yourselves a little bit. Yeah. And it wasn't just this dramatic, like, two women having this conversation on the bench about, and they would open it up to like talking to people about it. Yeah. And because when she brings it to Michael Stuhlbarg, he's like, did you know anything about this? She's like, no. But I did like that moment where they're both like, shouldn't you get in there, Jackie? And I'm like, okay. That was the little moment where I was like, okay, Luca still is in there.
Yeah. What you're describing there too gets a little bit to our central viewpoint character, who we stay with almost the entire film. There's like one or two scenes that aren't from her perspective, but Julia Roberts being the central character, she has her own sort of questionable past, questionable feelings of guilt or shame about things that happened to her, a similar situation, not explicitly an assault in the same way, but
An power imbalance and manipulation in an inappropriate relationship.
Yeah. I think the decision to have us through this particular character, the way in which she is cold or she is struggling to grapple with her own feelings or closed off and unfeeling. Yeah. As Michael Stuhlbarg's character says.
And we'll talk about him. We will get to him. I will talk about him.
I think that is an added barrier to this film, that something like Tar, who also has a very cold and unfeeling character in Lydia Tar, we get to feel more of that character, though, and maybe it is just an aspect of that's a 3-hour movie, this is a 2-hour movie. But I think it's also just in the way of the superior way of writing and things. I think that, you know, in the hands of a great writer, you can have a similar effect, write about a cold character, but give us a feeling for them and why they are the way they are and things like that I think is slightly missing in this. Or it's done clunkily with I think the backstory stuff. I don't know. It feels at times melodramatic. Sometimes it does work. It's a bit of a mess, but.
Agreed. Speaking of barriers, I feel like this makes some cheap generational stabs. Like when she gets upset at the non-binary, the they, them, I was like, why is she getting upset at the they, them? What did the non-binary do to her other than being a non-binary person? But I get what it's supposed to, represent, because they show both generations as having their issues. But I don't know. It felt like there were more. Maybe that's just me being like, I don't like how they painted the younger generation. I feel like it was intentional, but.
No, I agree with that. I think in a weird way, I kind of feel I hear 100% what you're saying.
I like that she went after the they, them.
No. I think that the film makes that character, the non-binary character, Alex, the one person who doesn't have baggage or isn't like a weird brat or like weirdly, twisted by this sort of very fake class of pseudo intellectuals.
Yeah, but you have the protest scene where they're like, we just want answer, and they're all like crowding around.
Yeah, but the film also goes out of its way to have Alex be like, give them some space, give them some space. Yeah. Like, so it still even inserts like, oh, this is like it's an entirely like, it's an annoying thing to do, but it's not really. Yeah.
But I do think in that, and this is where I transitioned somehow to talk about Michael Stuhlbarg, I like that he was a grounding person. He was a good contrast to Alma's kind of have to be put together on the surface, but simmering underneath and cold and unfeeling. And then you get Michael Stuhlbarg, who from the start is this flamboyant, theatrical, he listens to jazz, he makes cassoulet. Hell, I'd marry him. I would marry him.
Yeah. It's incredibly frustrating how she just does not deserve this guy at all.
And then you see him have the scene when Maggie comes over, and he kind of...
Which I didn't buy it. I didn't know why he was acting childish for that one scene, but like...
I think just because Alex and Frederick are both those grounding where they both know this is a bad idea. They both know that Alma and Maggie are bringing this on themselves to have these little conversations where it's just them kind of fighting each other.
Yeah.
Like he knows that this dinner isn't going to help anything.
Well, he doesn't know what the dinner is about. He doesn't know anything about the assault at that point. So he is just being childish because the attention's not on him or something.
I think that's part. But again, you assume he's an analyst. He's not stupid.
Yeah.
You have to assume he knows that something's going on.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. No, he's doing it because he's
acting
earlier
out.
in the film identified this as an at least codependent, weird relationship.
He's like, you like having people around that worship you and think you're the best.
And inviting a student over one-on-one for dinner, like, he's identifying it as inappropriate or whatever. But just the way in which he blasts music and like is just obnoxious. I mean, it's really funny. It's great.
What's the Anatomy of a Fall? It's that big where he's blasting.
Yeah. But it's weird that it doesn't make sense with the way he acts throughout the rest of the movie.
I agree. I was also like, why is he doing this?
Yeah.
Why is my baby boy husband doing this?
I was like, oh, are we getting a little bit more of an insight into how he is, but no, he just goes back to being like a pretty sensible, like,
I made a cassoulet and I'm listening to jazz and I love you. I'm a wife guy. And it's Michael Stolberg. I love Michael Stolberg. And I think he always is fantastic.
Lastly, I did bring up before in the pre-spoiler talk my issues, or I alluded to having some issues with Guadagnino's direction. I completely understand why, for this particular subject matter, he wants to have a bit of a restrained sort of style. Like, it wouldn't necessarily, well, maybe it would work, but I can understand why he doesn't want to go all out gonzo, surrealistic, queer, like his film Queer.
You're like, this
style.
needed a drug trip. They all need drug trips. They all need a trip.
So I understand that. There were some things that worked. Like, I loved when he would do the shallow depth of focus close up on people, like for certain moments and things. I think that was really good. His like little attention to hands.
I was about to say, what do you think the hand shots were about? What do you think the close ups on the hand gestures were about?
Holy Palmer's kiss, as Shakespeare once said. I have no idea.
True. You're just throwing that out there.
Just throwing some random line about hands.
Yeah.
No, there were obnoxious things, like I really didn't like the opening of the film with the ticking sound effect as we go throughout her day, and using that as it's a bit of a gimmick to just communicate when she's stressed or in pain or something.
It's always ulcers. I knew it was ulcers. When she was like, oh, I was like, oh, it's a career-driven woman with stress ulcers.
That's also a cliche, I feel like, for these kinds of movies where like some sort of physical pain is representative of their own mental
she shoved
deterioration.
This thing that happened to her down, and now it's turning into stomach ulcers because that's how it works.
Which, again, is not in itself bad. It's just when all of these things are happening together, it just lessens the overall impact of the story that's being told, I think, or it feels like messy, or like, you know, the fact that Guadagnino put 2 movies out last year and put this one out quickly as well, these feel a little rushed. Like, it feels like he's operating on a first draft or something, or a second draft of the script, and he's shooting it in a restrained way, not only because it's appropriate, but also because it's convenient to shoot that way and you can shoot faster. So I don't know, it just felt a little less polished than something like Challenges, which, again, kind of hard to beat Challenges. It's one of the best movies of like the last decade, but
Tannock really likes Challengers, guys. If you haven't picked up on it,
bring it up every time.
Tannock loves
Go
Challengers.
see Challenges. That movie is incredible.
Next week he'll be like, and it's kind of similar to the greatest film of the last decade, Challengers.
So yeah, I think like in no way does this make me concerned about like, oh, Luca Guadagnino's fallen off or anything like that. But yeah, I was a little disappointed, or it didn't hold up in the same way. Maybe, again, as you sort of mentioned, if I had a PhD in philosophy, maybe I'd be getting a lot more out of this.
True.
But as I could follow with the spark notes that they were giving with a 5-minute lecture in the middle, that's I wasn't getting as much out of it as maybe was intended.
Elma, I got assaulted. Have you read Plato's? It's a Plato. So I was like, okay, guys. When Hank was quoting his little literature stuff when he was crashing out, and I was like, okay, come on, guys.
Yeah. I also, sorry, this is one last quick thing.
Guys, just one last thing, and then we'll wrap up.
I didn't like that they tilt their hand a little bit right at the end with Hank, and like you can tell.
I was gonna ask about that. Yeah.
I kind of liked the ambiguity.
Yeah.
Because I already didn't believe Hank. I didn't need to see any more than that. I just did not believe him.
I
liked the ambiguity of like, you can never be sure.
And then it turns into he tries to kind of assault, and it's like, we didn't need to. We get it. He's a bad guy. Like we didn't need
we know he's a bad guy way before that scene. Like without whether the abuse, the assault happened or not.
I always find it interesting, the difference in those like confessional moments when Maggie is talking to Alma for the first time about it. It's in that she's shriveled up, she's soaking wet. It's in a dark stairwell.
Yeah.
And then contrast to Hank, where he's eating a huge amount of food at this
Yeah.
diner where he's a regular and he's just gesturing, he's drinking his beer.
Yeah.
He's like, this didn't happen.
Yeah.
This happens to guys like me all the time, and it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And it's I always find that I'm like, yeah, we get it. But yeah, I agree. I was like, when that scene was happening, I was like, guys, come on. Zoom in on the camel crushes.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's
Just one lap. No, I'm just kidding. Go watch Challengers.
that's After the Hunt. Go watch Challenges. No, I mean it's good. I mean, if you're a Luca Guadagnino fan,
Go see it.
you'll get something out of it.
you're a Michael Solberg
I'm
fan.
not sure it's up to his usual level. That's all.
But I still got faith in him. That's still my boy. Keep putting Michael Solberg in your movies is
True. That is the big takeaway.
That's a big
for sure.
takeaway from this.
All right, folks. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of 8 News Real Talk. We'll see you all next week.